Chip and I decided to collaborate and bring some new information regarding title fees, and some other issues that have recently come up to share with you, to walk your buyers through the home buying process and hopefully save them some cash money at closing. My name's Billi West with MiMortgage.
And I'm Chip Lynn with Closing Bear.
So last week we had some closings actually on our side in which the title company was charging $1,100 on a first mortgage, $400 for a second mortgage, which was a bond loan for a buyer, not only a buyer but a veteran. Then I had another closing later in the week, and both title companies, all three of them, were non-local. The other two title companies were charging $795 a piece to the buyer. So Chip and I wanted to get together and kind of walk you through the process. Part of it, the lender up front is responsible in disclosing their fees, and they're held liable for those, or they have to eat it or offset it. And realtors are liable up front on their end to disclose fees, and they're liable. But title companies, no offense, Chip,
Here we go.
are not. And so we want to walk you through the process of how to prevent that.
So it came out that it was not only the closing fee, which was obviously highly inflated, especially by Northeast Florida standards. There's a lot of miscellaneous and kind of fluff fees that are put in as well. And it kind of leaves the buyer in a tricky situation on what they can negotiate for, what they have to pay, and just, feeling like they're in no control of the process. And so that was kind of the point of us having the conversation, is what are we typically seeing and what to keep an eye out for that may be inflated or kind of bogus charges that you can tell them to take off.
So these additional fees can be surprises when you have a buyer coming to closing and they're getting the CD and the final figures 3 business days prior to the closing, and you're finding out what these elevated fees are. So we wanted to talk about some things that are normal. For example, if you have a title company that is more than an hour away, most likely they're not going to come to the closing or accommodate the buyer, so they're charging mobile notary fees. These are the things that we're trying to look out for. And our suggestion is up front, since the listing agent chooses the title company, that you reach out immediately and get a copy of a prelim CD, which is going to itemize the title fees, and that way we're not waiting for the surprise at closing. Then when you see that there's something that's elevated or not right, you either run it by your preferred title company or run it by your preferred lender, and either make the decision to negotiate those fees up front or call the listing agent and use Chip.
Yeah, definitely use me. Use me as the default, right? Good.
So will you tell them a little bit about the line in the sales contract?
Yeah.
That kind of gives them the open door. So agents usually call me and they say, but Billi, the seller pays the closing fee.
Yeah, and so this is what a lot of these title companies are doing, and why I want to do this video is to kind of show the difference between how we run Closing Bear and what you're seeing all over the state. With Closing Bear, we have a seller's closing fee, and then we have a buyer's post-closing fee, and that's it. Anything else are hard costs. And so, but what a lot of them are doing, right under the section of the contract, the NIFAR contract, in section B, it says, the buyer will also pay all other charges required by lenders in connection with the buyer's loans, unless prohibited by law or regulation, together with lender-related settlement/title service fees charged to process, close, and post-close buyer's loans. So they're not even just doing post-closing, where we were just talking off camera about shipping fees. When we're overnighting these packages, it ends up being thousands of dollars a month in hard costs that we incur. So that's why we charge that fee. But they're also charging to process, close, and post-close. So they're really taking advantage of everything that's in the contract, and they kind of have the right to do that because it's in the contract. But again, we're not even just talking about those. We're talking about all the other fees that are in there too, that they're kind of using to really inflate how much money they're making per deal.
So remember the one we had last week with the $1,500? They were also charging $199 for a binder holding fee on a third-party company, which that attorney owns. Yeah. So those are the things that we want to be on the lookout for, and making sure that everybody's on the up and up.
Yeah, I can give you some examples of what I've seen, because I get altas from all over the state, just to give everybody an idea. So realistically, there should be a closing fee and maybe a post-closing fee. If you incur other things, so if you charge for things and you let the customers know we charge for things, so for instance, the agreements that we draft, we don't charge for them, but if you're going to do a post-occupancy or pre-occupancy or an escrow holdback or any of these agreements, and you say, hey, we will do that for you for this amount of money, right, fine, have that on your Alta. The other hard cost that we have, if the bank charges a wire fee, we charge a wire fee. Things like surveys and things that are hard costs, those are there. But what I've seen all over the state and all over Jacksonville, to be honest with you, are notary fees, attorney doc prep fees, doc storage fees, courier fees. What are the other ones? I've recently started seeing technology fees. That's
wire fraud insurance fees.
Yeah,
like they're itemizing.
You know, and like you said, we're holding your binder. That's $300. I mean, so all of these things, they are fluff fees. All they are is fluff. They're trying to make as much money as possible per deal. The title insurance business is a volume business. And so what a lot of companies are realizing is, well, we get a small piece of the pie, but if we're able to add some fees to it, then nobody really second guesses for the most part. But if you see a notary fee on your call on your altar, you're going to go, okay, well, we have a notary. Well, I'm there, Tom's there, everybody on our team's a notary, so there's no reason to charge $75 for a notary fee. And the ones that just get me are the attorney doc prep. I do work a lot and I do a lot of drafting. Y'all send us the packages. Right? There's no attorney doc prep going on there, okay? So y'all send us both. We have a couple of things that we do, on our end that we add to our package for title insurance. But spoiler alert, I'm not sitting down drafting all the mortgages and all the stuff, and so to charge $550 or $750 for attorney doc prep is astronomical and not justified in my opinion.
Well, we try to make your life easier by doing our new hybrid closing, which is where the buyer can sign the documents online.
Love that.
The morning of the closing. And then they show up to closing, they have a few documents, the mortgage, the note, the things that have to be notarized and witnessed, and they're done and they're out.
Right. I wish everyone was doing that. Unfortunately, they're not, but yeah, those are great.
So one of the other things that I've recently seen, Chip, you can increase the endorsements and the title insurance premium and make what are called a promulgated rate on top of that or something.
Sure.
And so a lot of times when the agents see those fees, they think that they're just normal and that's standard, and not realizing that some of the title companies are adding an increase on top of that as well.
Yeah, and so there's a baseline. As far as the title insurance piece goes, that is set by the state. I'll spare you the math, but it's basically $5.75 per thousand up to 100,000. Then it's $5 for every thousand up to $1 million. If you have over $1 million, make sure you send that to me and I'll tell you exactly how much it is. But that
when they're sending you the contract.
Yeah, when they're sending me the contract. But that's the flat rate. So that's what that is.
Right.
So you can do the math on that and see if they're upcharging. Other things like endorsements, as part of selling the insurance piece, title companies, they are allowed to add to that. Mm-hmm. Realistically, most of those I've seen around town are within reason. They may add a $10 or $15 or $20 to it. That's not one that I'm really seeing hammered too hard, because I think if somebody saw an endorsement for $500, they'd realize, wait a second, something's off. And also on the endorsements too, it's a little hard to see on the Altas if you're not in this industry, because they're all charged differently, so they're different amounts. So it's not like every one of them's $100, and if you see one for $300, you can cry foul. It's a little trickier to do that. But on any of those that you have questions on, feel free to shoot them over to me, and I'll tell you on our deal what that would be, and you can compare those and see, if that's within reason or not.
So a couple things. Get the prelim CD. Let's review it. Even if we want to review it together, Chip, myself, we're all happy to do it. 2, make sure the title company's local. If they're not, find out what the fees are going to be to close this by a mobile notary. I've seen them as high as $500 that they're charging and keeping the overages, or if someone else is maybe able to do that as a courtesy closing. So a couple things to end this with. You want to look for potential red flags. 1, making sure that the title company is local. And 2, getting that prelim CD so that if you're unsure of those fees, you can have someone look at that. But you want to give your buyer, not only the seller, an opportunity to shop and compare and make sure that that's a comfortable price for them and a comfortable title company.
Yeah, and so the things to look out for, like we kind of talked about, are, if you're doing mobile notaries, you're starting to see those at $500.
Yeah,
that's incredible. I mean, so my standard things are, if it's a hard cost, that's what we pass for. And now the mobile notaries do have the freedom to charge whatever they want, but I've never seen them on $500.
Yeah.
So normally $100, $150, right in there. If you have something like that, I wouldn't, be too upset about it. But yeah, if you're seeing something at $400 or $500 for a notary, somebody's just taking the extra money, I guarantee you. And if you ever want a second opinion about those, shoot them over to me, and I'll tell you, they vary per deal and per price point. But I'm happy to look at those, give you, hey, this is what we charge on it, just to give you a second opinion.
Your system online where it calculates the fees, can they just compare it to that?
Yeah, there is. There's a title piece in there. Most of those will, Most of those will just give you the actual title insurance piece, just because every endorsement's a little different per property, and every loan's different. So you may not need
HUD rider.
yeah, you may not need certain endorsements there, but you can add them. If you ever have questions about that too, we also have that NetSheets program that you have a free profile you can use. If you want to get into there and play around with that, if you have questions on that, feel free to reach out as well.
And just so you guys know, the title company to us is just as important. I always preach local, local, local. Not only do they know the market, but they're ordering the right things. But heaven forbid, I don't know why, but their other title companies are not wanting to order surveys and estoppels. And we've had closings that we're doing in 10 days, but title, no offense, can't get a survey.
Whoa.
Not Chip.
Not us. Let's
Can't
preface
get the
that.
survey
Okay.
and estoppel back. For some reason, they're holding those to order them, and then it's delaying our closings. So just some things to make sure your transaction coordinator or if you're doing that are on the lookout for.
You know, on our side, I'll just add this. You know, when we get contracts in, there's certain things that we order right up front. Surveys are one of those, and it varies during the year and during the market. Some things do take longer to get, but our team, they're on the ground every day seeing this, so they know, hey, we need surveys right now. You know, estoppels get a little tricky, and this is where I see a difference between my team and other teams around town, like you've just seen here recently this week. If you order them too late, then they're able to charge rush fees on top of that as well.
Yes.
And then you're in hot water. If you order them too early, then they expire, and then you have to do an updated one, and then people get upset about the fee. So that one's kind of a tricky one, but for them to just wait and wait and wait, especially with a market like this, it's just irresponsible in my opinion. So, yeah.
Shop local.
Shop local.